Welcome back to the Mind of Design podcast. It has been a while, and I am super excited about this coming year, this new year of 2024. I say this coming year by design, and the reason for that is I am just ramping up on some major ideas, some major just thrusts into the new year. We have some different launches coming out with social medias, and we are going to be doing a lot of things, and you don't want to miss just the tip of the iceberg here on the Mind of Design podcast. So I was just thinking about the new year and what it means, what it resembles, what it stands for a lot of people. In a lot of ways, from my experience, the way it has been over the past few years is I take my previous year's experience and I just stack on that and build into the new one. So I'm always revolutionizing and transforming into something even better. So 2023 was a phenomenal year, and this year is going to be extraordinary, and we are just going to continue to power through and do incredible things, and I'm pretty grateful that you're here with us along the process as we grow and as we expand and as we step into new heights. So I want to hear from you, the listener. I want to hear from you, the subscriber. And if you are at all a New Year person, if you have any feedback on what you see the new year to be for you and what it means to you, because I think there's more to it than just the transition of December 31st to January 1. There's definitely more to it. So I want to hear what the more is for you, maybe some of your just different experiences and cultures and different things. What affects the new year for you? Because I see an importance of this because it really frames the way we look at things in a lot of ways. So you want to check us out, send some feedback to feedback@themindofdesign.com. That's our email. We can get information from you so that we can really just connect with you. So if you want to send us an email there, you can also connect with us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is the Mind of Design podcast. Super excited for next steps into what we're building. We have a lot of things moving. I'm not going to share too much with you in terms of what we're doing, but just get ready and keep your eyes peeled because this is the first of many, and we're doing a series this week as we enter into January 2024. What an amazing year it's going to be. I'm absolutely beside myself about it, truly, because I know the power of action, but I also know the power of planning. And that's not what we're talking about today, but I just wanted to share that a bit with you just so we can sort of break the ice, because it's been a little while since we've stepped into this space of getting the information to you about design. We've taken quite a bit of a break, so I just really wanted to let you know what's happening and get you in on just the spin-off of what we're doing here with our episodes and just the different collaborations and things that we'll be doing come this 2024 year. Very excited. So, episode 1, the price of innovation, why quality design costs. So this is something I think is going to be a great conversation. I'm very interested to, again, hear from you and want to know what your thoughts are in the conclusion of this. So this is a 4-part episode for this month. So we're going to be discussing this today, and just really the outline of this is going to be building and building and building. So you don't want to miss the next episodes to follow, because it's just going to be amplified from this space of what we're discussing here today. It's going to be a very exciting time and an exciting experience, I believe, for all of us. So this is our theme for this entrance into January, the price of innovation, why quality design costs. And we're going to explore why investing in quality design matters, including just some of the examples that I have, and I'm sure many of you have in the design space. This is something very unusual, and I believe it needs to be talked about, and that's why we're here. So welcome again, and we are excited. So, we're looking at some things here today. As we unravel the essence of design, why does investing in quality really matter? Why does looking at real-world examples that showcase the true price of innovation, and why skimping on design can be a costly mistake? So, just to start it off here, the reason why you want to invest rather than focus on how much is simple. You can do the same job twice, or you can do it once and be done with it. Quality over quantity is something that I have learned to live by, because in every aspect of life, if you're doing something for someone and you think that, say, somebody is coming after you to pick up the pace from where you left off, and you just kind of leave it, I'll just say it plainly, you leave it crappy. I mean, you don't do a really good job, and you know you didn't do a good job, and now somebody else has to deal with that. Most often than not, that somebody else is you. That's been my experience in most cases, that when I do a crappy job and something has not been to the standard that I know it should be, I'm the one that usually fixes it. So I don't do that, of course, anymore. That was in my early years of being in the different trades and stuff, and just kind of being lazy and overlooking things and not really caring is really where it stemmed from. But then I learned something. I learned something very valuable, and I believe I'd say early in life, and that is, do unto others as you would have done to yourself. So don't expect other people to really do something for you that you haven't done for them. So I'm always looking to serve people. That's why we're here on this podcast. I'm here to serve you. I'm here to make this content great so that you can experience it great, and that you can really manifest something amazing in your world. Because design, let's be honest, it's more than just our craft. I mean, there's all different kinds of designers. I'm not going to go through the list, but you know what kind of design you do, and you know that everything that affects that design that you do is your client. It's the one you serve. And so that's the reason you're really in that space to begin with, is to serve people. And so when I realized this, it started to affect every area of my life, and I start to look at these things. And I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, because I'm not. I'm not saying that I have it all together, because I don't. But what I am saying is, sometimes in life, you have to step outside of yourself to see yourself for what it really is. Because, let's be honest, we lie to ourselves sometimes. I know I have. I know I may in some capacity still do. And I challenge myself daily to not lie to myself and say, well, that's not happening, or that's not true, or that's not how I'm perceived, whatever the case, in whatever capacity. Because I realize something very important, that it's not about what I feel, it's not about what I think of me, it's about me taking a step back and looking and seeing, and just taking mental note, really. And in my case, I take physical notes of a lot of things that I experience about myself from a day-to-day flow. I'll have thoughts flying through my mind on a daily basis. All of us do. I mean, it's scientifically proven that we have thousands upon thousands of ideas daily. Think about that. Just consider that for a moment, because that is the reality of our existence. I mean, we're by design creators. We're by design designers. Pun intended there. But I wanted to really explore this with you and look at these things, because it's important at first glance that we don't just skim over it, because that's the problem with a lot of individuals, is they'll skim over life and they wonder why life isn't working. Life works when you work life, and you got to realize that there are rules, there are laws, there are regulations for a reason, because without them, like the famous John Wick, if you've ever watched John Wick movies, I'm absolutely in love with the movies, because I'm very much big into kung fu and martial arts and different types of action movies like that are very much like they bring you to a space of like gun violence, all that stuff. I mean, I'm not promoting gun violence, but I'm saying I enjoy all that sort of drama in a movie. So the John Wick movies are just fantastic, the storyline. But enough of that. One of the things he said throughout the series, as you may know, is when he went to the Continental, you know, the rules were you don't fight on Continental grounds. And the reason they had rules was they would always allude to that without rules, we are just like the dogs. In other words, anarchy is a manifestation of a lack of order. And again, with many different views surrounding this. I'm not here to talk about anarchy in any way, but I want to make sure that we cover the surrounds that deal with this area of being intentional and not just happenstance happening to life. Because you can have many different ways to go about life, or you can just manifest the greatness that is inside of you already and bring that to the forefront and put it into effect. I mean, it's not about just here or there. It's about being intentional about every opportunity that you can produce in life. Because everywhere we look in ourselves, if we really look and examine ourselves, we can see that there are areas that could probably change. I know I myself can change some things in my life and be better at certain areas. And of course, that's there because we are constantly in this space of creating, of innovating. Because to be truthful, it's not about where you've been, it's about where you're going. Nobody really wants to hear about where you've been in life. They want to hear about where are you going, what are you building, what are you creating, what are you doing, how are you doing it. Those are the things that they're really asking. They don't want to hear about your process to get there. They're happy that you got there, but that's it. They just want to hear how can it help them. And rightfully so, because we're serving people. That's what matters most. So I was just thinking about that thought earlier. Again, pun intended, because what I'm going to share with you is thoughts. And we have around 60,000 of them each day. So I'm not sure that I capture anywhere close to that 60,000, but I definitely do the best that I can daily to take notes of my ideas and concepts and reasonings and make sure that I can record it. Why? Because if it's worth capturing in my mind, it's probably worth writing down or at least making notes somewhere of it. Because those ideas, I mean, you capture one or two of them, you could create a Facebook, you could create an Amazon. That's all they really did. I mean, they took a concept that was already in existence. They didn't have to build the infrastructure. I remember an interview somewhat recently with Jeff Bezos when he built Amazon. I mean, if you look at the videos of the early Amazon days, I mean, Jeff really he's come a long way. And when you look at his sort of backlog of videos, I mean, it was rough. It was rough in the beginning, and it really sort of helps, at least myself, to put into perspective the process and enjoying the process, really. Because he was enjoying himself. I mean, he was just programming and doing what he loved, and really put it in a place where he could amplify it, and he started selling books, etc. We all can look and know the story. If you don't know about Amazon's story, just go check it out on YouTube. But all that to say, he was sharing in the early days that it was tough, and he had to really work on himself, and nobody really believed in him except for his parents that made the initial investment to get him where he was able to build. But he said something very interesting in this recent interview, and that was very simple, that he didn't need all the infrastructure to build Amazon. The infrastructure was already there, i.e. the UPS model of transportation of the products. So the packaging, all of that stuff was already there. He didn't need to think about that. All of that money that would have otherwise needed to be sort of brought into the picture to create this service, he didn't need to do. He just took something as an idea, processed it, and took opportunity of the reality that his life was not about what he's gone through. It's about where is he going. And that's what he was speaking to. And that's the very interesting part about life, is we have to look at ourselves and take inventory of our processes, our procedures, and the thoughts that we have, because some of the thoughts that we have are really good. And they're, I say, borderline genius. And you should write them down. You should take record of those, because it's very important that we are looking at ourselves from this space of what we're talking about today, of the price of innovation and why quality design costs. Quality design, it'll cost you financially, but I think beyond finance, it'll cost you your dreams if you don't do them correctly. And that's far more than money could ever cost. Think about that, because money is just a means of transaction. Money's transactional, simply. I mean, think about it. Give somebody money, you get a product, you get a service, you get some kind of experience on the receiving end, and that's it. That's all that's there. But see, life is more than that. And the price of innovation in your life first is probably one of the greatest things to discuss. And we might need to do a part 2, honestly, of this episode today, because I think there's more to this. In fact, I know there's more to this. So we'll see on that. We might sort of maybe in the next few weeks discuss and really go in a direction to do a part 2 on this, because I think it's important. There's sort of 2 phases. There's the price of innovation of you, the listener, as you're here today, and then there's the price of innovation, be it the product and service that you're rendering to your client. And so, as we continue on here, the essence of quality in design, it's super important to understand that the fundamental question, what makes a design quality? What makes it quality? What makes the experience of the user quality? Is it just about looking good, or is there more to it? Of course there's more to it. Steve Jobs said it once, and I've quoted him in the past episodes of our podcast here because it's such a great quote. Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. And he couldn't have been more right. Take Apple, for instance. Their commitment to functional yet aesthetically pleasing products has set new industry standard. And one of the things I really appreciate about Steve is Steve has been gone now for the better part of 12, now coming up on 13 years. Think about that. 2011. That's quite a stretch. I mean, a decade goes by, a lot of changes happen, but yet this man's legacy lives on. Why? Because Apple had nothing to do with the product. It had to do with the person. And when you make something about the person and not the product, it will live through time. That's where you have timelessness in antiques. I love antiques. I'm actually obsessed with antiques. You can ask my wife. I'm very much involved with the antique space. Anytime I see maybe Victorian era, especially early craftsmanship of things, I mean, going back to the early times, I mean, 1500s. If I can go earlier than that, I would love to. I love Asian culture, specifically Japanese. Different types of antiques are just fascinating to me, and I would literally own just as much as I could possibly fit in a space to, of course, make it aesthetically pleasing, but it would just, it's so just amazing to me, the craftsmanship and the time to detail, the attention to detail, the hours that somebody took, because this stuff isn't manufactured. You can't get it from IKEA. So that's one area of timelessness. It's antiques. I mean, no matter what you do, I mean, there are people that buy antiques or are given antiques. They make YouTube channels and then they destroy them by quote-unquote refinishing them and repurposing them. I mean, you do what you want, but if you take an old, I don't know, early 1900s chest or some type of cabinet that has glass face and it's all this natural wood and has this beautiful inlay and design of different sort of brush strokes of gold. I mean, why would you take that and destroy it to make it more modern? If you want to do that, go to IKEA. I guess I'm giving some respect to IKEA today. Maybe I should share this broadcast with them so they can reap the benefits, and I can reap the benefits as well for giving them recognition. But when you look at life, you need to look at it through this lens of timelessness, really. Because back to Steve, I mean, Steve wasn't looking at himself as really anything great. I mean, he just loved to bring the service of the computer to people. He was obsessed with it, really. And out of that obsession, here we are today, 12, almost 13 years later. He is no longer here with us, but his legacy lives on because it was not about the product called Apple. It was about the person called Steve who created the product called Apple. And there I say to you, when you create something, an innovation, and you spend quality money into it, you invest quality into it, it does something to the user, it does something to the human experience. It makes it just marvelous, really. And I have a book by, not Steve, but his company that he was affiliated with, that you may be familiar, Chiat Day, which is I believe, one of the best in the world in terms of creating just beautiful aesthetics. I mean, that's why Apple is as attractive as it is, because of Chiat Day. So I have their book, and it's quite interesting, the book that it just goes into detail about the connection between Apple and Chiat Day and just the whole experience and how it really built out. So I could share that with you in the section after this is concluded. But I just wanted to give that to you, that piece, that it's not so much about where you've been, it's about where you're going, because life is a constant life is a constant progressive experience, meaning it's always going ahead, with or without you. And real world experiences and real world examples of success and successful design, we can delve into some of the success stories that we've had, and also, throughout 2023, some of the success stories, and we can get into a lot of that. But I'm just giving you all of these sort of background tidbits of information so that you can put picture to your mind as you're hearing this, because the quality over the quantity is where you should always live, never around anything else. The cost of quality and its justification comes out of the idea that you think about the research, the materials, the minds behind it. As Paul Rand said, design is the silent ambassador of your brand. Don't you just love that? Design is the silent ambassador of your brand. It's an investment in your brand's future. It's so just mind-blowing and earth-shattering to realize that we have the power within us to create a world that we want, a new world, if you will. No matter what you're looking at, never put limitation. Never say it's not possible. Never say it's not so. Why? Because that will be the experience of the user. And you never hear about the people that never made history. You don't know their name. Why? Because they were written out of history. Because when you think about the word history, his story, it's the story of the user. It's the story of the person firsthand. And they are sharing that with the world. The history of Steve Jobs lives on. Why? Because he lived to leave his legacy and his passion and his involvement. All of that is really why Tim Cook is in the seat for the better part of the 12 years that Steve has not been here. But you don't really think about Tim Cook, you think about Steve Jobs. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of design. That's why you don't want to just step out of line with what you're doing. The price of innovation. Why quality design costs. That's our discussion here for today, that we're leaving it with you there. And just get ready for next week. It's going to be even more exciting because, like I said, we're just ramping up here. So we're just warming our hands. I'm very excited. So as we look into next week, we're looking at something even more profound, and it builds on this because this is a 4-part series, as I shared with you in the beginning of this, for this month. And what we're talking about next week is this area of cutting corners, the cost of cheap design. So get ready for it. And I hope that this has inspired you. I hope that this has really given you an expansion in your mind so that you can do something different in your world. And as the great Les Brown said, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. So keep that in the forefront of everything you do for your 2024. Whatever resolutions you have, it's possible. And it's only possible because you are in the driver's seat of that possibility. So, thank you again for being with us. Make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe. Make sure that you give us some recognition here on the Mind of Design podcast. We want to get more followers. We want to get more of you to join in to the conversation, because we're not just here to talk. We're here to demonstrate. We're here to just reveal the secrets of design, step into the world of design. That's why this podcast is called The Mind of Design. Why? Because it was out of this whole world of design that I am absolutely obsessed with. Everything about it is beckoning the call of the user. So get excited for next week, and of course, until then, stay curious and stay inspired. Thank you.